All right. It is August 16th, 2023. We do the New York Times daily newsletter. Today it's by Lisa Lear. Hopefully I said that right. We are covering Trump's campaign, the death toll on Maui, and influencers on TikTok, the Chinese spy app. Yay. Should be fun there. All right, center of gravity. There was a time, not all that long ago, when being indicted was bad for a politician's career. That time is over, at least for Donald Trump. Well, there was also a time when we would not charge people with political prosecutions. We would not charge somebody for making phone calls or booking hotel rooms or watching TV. There was also a time when we would not charge somebody with conspiracy against rights. So you do need to have that into consideration. They're using novel legal strategies and claiming that Trump is guilty without showing any evidence at all. He's guilty because he's guilty. That's it. The outrageous statements and chaos that defined his candidacy and time in office did little to dent his popularity within the Republican Party. Nor did your 95% negative news coverage where you repeatedly lied about him. More people turned out to vote for him the second time, even after you lied and said he said that Nazis were fine people when he didn't. Now, his fourth indictment is testing that support again. Can a candidate facing 91 criminal counts? Because the more criminal counts means he's guilty, right? If we get to 100, he's automatically guilty. That's like how the left thinks. Including charges that he sought to subvert democracy when we live in a republic by trying to overturn an election like Hillary Clinton did, win his party's nomination for the presidency. Yeah, most likely he's much more popular than anyone else, so that seems to be the way it's going. So far, the answer seems to be yes. Not only are Trump's indictments far from disqualifying for large parts of the Republican base, he holds a decisive polling lead across nearly every ideological wing and demographic group in the party. But they are all ensuring that the contest revolves around him. Yeah, Trump's prestige is legendary. There's nobody that compares. The media hates that too. All eyes on Trump. At the Iowa State Fair last weekend, Republican voters packed every stop Trump made. The crowds were so large that they made it difficult to walk through the fairgrounds during the hour he was there. He effectively stole the spotlight from Ron DeSantis, his chief rival in the race. DeSantis isn't a rival, his campaign's done. Who was scheduled to visit the fair at the same time. 2 days later, Trump dominated the news again with the spectacle of his fourth indictment. This time, the setting was Georgia, where Fani Willis, the George Soros-funded prosecutor who doesn't care about criminals in her own woods, but is going after the president. The Fulton County District Attorney charged Trump with trying to reverse the state's 2020 election results. As with his other indictments, Trump's rivals were asked their view of the charges, further establishing him as the center of the Republican world. And there's little sign that the Trump show is ending soon. He plans to hold a news conference on Monday at his club in New Jersey. He has until next Friday to voluntarily surrender to the Georgia authorities, an appearance that will bring another wave of news media coverage. In between, on Wednesday, at least 8 other Republican candidates are meeting in Milwaukee for the first debate of the race. Normally, the face-off would prompt weeks of speculation over tactics, attack lines, and debate skills. But this year, the only thing people seem to be talking about is whether Trump will attend. Many of his advisors are telling him to skip the event, saying he has nothing to gain by being on stage with opponents that he leads by double digits. Trump has not ruled out making an appearance, but even if he follows his team's advice and stays home, the debate is likely to be defined by his absence. New territory. We can't know how this will end. Trump is the first former president to face criminal charges. Never mind the first major party candidate run with a lengthy rap sheet. He doesn't have a rap sheet. He hasn't been convicted of anything yet. See how you pretend that he's guilty before he's even gone into court? That's disingenuous news coverage. That's part of the 95% negative news coverage. And yet somehow Trump still has gained support despite you continuously doing crap like this. Some strategists supporting his rivals argue that the charges are already having an effect, noting that his poll numbers in Iowa and his favorability ratings have dipped. Their assessments could eventually be proved correct, or they could just be the latest round of wishful thinking by anti-Trump Republicans and anti-Trump Democrats. Remember, you are the same. The country is headed into an extraordinary political season. Absolutely. We have the sitting president attacking his chief political rival, which you impeached Trump for and said it was a horrible thing for him to do. And now, as Biden does the same thing, you're cheering it on. That's why people don't trust you. That's why nobody believes you, because you're blatant hypocrites. Voters are likely to be evaluating a major party nominee who is bouncing between the campaign trail and criminal trials. And if Trump wins the 2024 election, there's the possibility that Americans will watch their president spend part of his term in a courtroom. More on the Georgia indictment. Racketeering charges used against the mafia and gangs could help Willis tell a sweeping story of the effort to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. It's good that they framed it as a story, because that's what it is. It's a fantasy where Democrats are trying to say that Trump knew he lost the election despite all the massive anomalies in it. The Democrats say that it's the safest and most secure election in history, despite the fact that double the number of mail-in votes automatically precludes that as being possible. Democrats used to acknowledge that mail-in voting allowed fraud, and now they claim there's no fraud at all, even after we keep finding more evidence of it. This makes it difficult to believe you when you say there's no fraud and we find 10,000 ballots in Detroit that were fraudulent, or we find duplicate scans in Georgia that prove they were counted twice. So that's why Trump has a difficulty believing it, because there's so many problems and none of them were looked into. And I know you're going to say Trump lost 60 court challenges. No, he didn't. He won 2, he lost 1, and the rest were dismissed on standing. None of the merits were considered. That's how you know people are being disingenuous when they lie and say Trump lost all the court cases. No, he actually won 2 of them. Hiring challenges and threats plagued Willis during her 2.5-year investigation. Gee, I'm shocked. A hyper-partisan person had difficulty finding people to engage in her hyper-partisan actions? Oh, wow. Election deniers are facing consequences after years of spreading lies. So Hillary Clinton will be facing consequences. Stacey Abrams will be facing consequences. All of the media that lied for years on end about Trump in 2016 will be facing consequences, right? Because no one is above the law. Rudy Giuliani went from America's mayor to criminal defendant. Read more about his long slide. Yeah, going after lawyers, that's not in any way a chilling effect on our republic to start attacking lawyers. They're going to go after Trump supporters too. They're going to start charging people that went to January 6th and stood outside. They're going to charge people that posted on Twitter anything negative about the regime. We're sliding into fascism, and Democrats are supporting it. Another defendant is a publicist who worked for Kanye West. A publicist. Yeah, that makes sense. Willis said she hoped to begin a trial in the next 6 months. That way, it can interfere with the election even more. You could have brought these charges 2 years ago, but no, you waited until it was politically convenient. The special counsel in the January 6th indictment obtained Trump's direct messages on Twitter. So, just to be clear here, Jack Smith, the special counsel who lied to the grand jury and withheld Trump's testimony, which violates the standard of fraud that he has laid forth, is now going to use Trump direct messages on Twitter as what? This should be fun. I can't wait to see that. Trump is taunting the judge in that case. Some lawyers say that if he wasn't a former president, his criticism would put him in jail. But it's okay to taunt Trump, right? The walls are closing in. Hillary Clinton goes on and laughs on Rachel Maddow's show. That's all okay, though, right? Confused by all these indictments? Here's an explanation of each case. I can sum it up. They're all political. Hawaii wildfires. More deaths from the fires are still being confirmed. The toll is now at least 106. DNA specialists have flown to Maui to help identify the dead. I would expect that number is probably going to be 4 digits by the time this is all done. Horrible tragedy. Officials in Hawaii released the first names of the dead last night. Many families have been waiting over a week for news. President Biden said he would travel to Hawaii after a lot of criticism, after he just absolutely did the most egregious thing ever. You criticized George Bush for flying over Hurricane Katrina. Joe Biden smiles and laughs and says no comment when asked about what happened on Maui. And you think that this is a good response, giving $700 to people? I'm going to say it right now. Everybody on Maui, everybody on that little island, all the poor people there, they're gone. All those houses are going to be bought up by the rich, Oprah Winfrey, Jeff Bezos, and company. They're going to buy up all of it. It's going to work out really well for the top 1%, just like they've done great under Biden and great under Obama, too. The rich love Democrats. The war in Ukraine. The Russian central bank's sharp interest rate rise highlights how the country is struggling to both pay for its war and tame inflation. Ukraine's unseen army behind the troops fighting Ukraine's counteroffensive are technicians who also put themselves in danger. Another part of the unseen army would be all of the old people that they're forcing to the front lines with no training to go into a meat grinder. That is not going well. But it's cool, right? Because we can just let all the Ukrainians die. What do we care? That way we can put a small little dent in Russia. International. Hundreds of young Taliban soldiers, bored by the routine of keeping peace in Afghanistan, are fleeing to Pakistan to wage war. This is one of those things. The Taliban, they spent 20 years fighting, and now when they've won, it turns out it kind of sucks to be in the doldrums of life. And so now they're looking for things to fight. China's biggest real estate company, Country Garden, has $200 billion in unpaid bills. If it defaults, experts say the wider economy could suffer. It's a state-run economy, so they'll come up with something. The Daily explains why Nigeria's allies still think it's possible to reverse the country's coup. It's not. It just, I've said this now for over a week, and it's not going to happen. Nigeria has a much more competent military than their surrounding nations do. They're not going to invade. They're not going to stop them. It is what it is. Lounge chairs that rent for up to $130 are spreading across Greek beaches, and residents are protesting. Not a shock, but I don't understand why that's a news story. More than half of Americans addicted to opioids aren't getting treatment. Well, not quite sure what you're going to treat them on, considering you won't let people in pain. Like, I'm in infinite pain, and if I go to a doctor, they won't give me a painkiller. They'll, tell me to take Tylenol because druggies can't stop. Parents and doctors say a medication shortage is leading to learning declines in children with ADHD. ADHD is a made-up thing, doesn't exist. The drugs that they're talking about are meth. That's what they give them. Adderall is a derivative of meth. When I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, the in vogue term was hyperactive. That's what they said. You were a hyperactive kid. Every kid is hyperactive. And every kid that has ADHD, I guarantee I can sit them in front of a TV, in front of a video game, and they'll sit still for hours on end. It's not that they have an inability to pay attention. It's just simply that they don't want to, and they lack discipline. Giving them meth doesn't solve any problems. Defamation. Sandy Hook families are asking a bankruptcy judge to ensure that the conspiracy theorist Alex Jones pays the full $1.4 billion that he owes in defamation damages, even if it takes him the rest of his life. $1.4 billion in damages for running news reports. Yeah, this is a free country, all right. When a Wisconsin news outlet claimed a businessman used an anti-gay slur, he sued. A judge dismissed the case, but legal bills could still close the site. Okay. Oh, right. I'll have to go to the paywall. Yeah, who cares? Interesting. People sentenced to life in prison and teenagers are making the case for their release. Why? I mean, if you were sentenced to life in prison as a teenager, you had to have killed someone. So why would we let them out? X, formerly known as Twitter, slowed access to certain websites, including The Times, Substack, and Facebook. It reversed some of the changes yesterday. What does that even mean? Slowed access? Europe's response to migration has normalized mass death. Here are columns on Jane Bowie on abortion and surveillance, and Thomas Friedman on Israel. Ageless or Airbrush. Vogue's latest cover with 90s supermodels started a conversation about beauty standards online. That's funny because the beauty standards that exist mostly are created by women. Men don't really care. Men have real low bars for what we like. What we want, women, we just want to see you naked. That's it. You don't need anything else. You don't need special anything. Makeup, we don't care about. We don't care about, any of the clothes you wear. The sexiest outfit a woman can wear is a turtleneck. Can there be a safe suntan? Yeah, we've been getting them for like most of human existence. So, yeah, the sun is not as bad as you think. You just have to be intelligent about it, not stand out there when your skin starts turning red. Go inside. Once rare, 40-point games are surging in the WA. 40-point games? That's big? That's huge? Is that a guy? That doesn't look like a woman to me. The New York Liberty claimed the Commissioner's Cup with a blowout win over the Las Vegas Aces? What is that? Oh, Alex Collins, the 28-year-old former NFL running back, was killed in a motorcycle crash in Florida. That sucks. Movie talk. A new generation of movie reviewers reaching millions of viewers on TikTok, the Chinese spy app that is destroying our youth. These reviewers tend to bristle at the title of critic, which they see as old-fashioned and snobbish. A lot of us don't trust critics, said Brian Lucius, who posts reviews under the name at Stony the Great, but traditional critics might say the feeling is mutual, as many TikTok movie reviewers eschew the old model of journalistic independence and sign promotional deals with Hollywood studios. There's no journalistic independence. They're all hacks. The Orlando Museum of Art filed a lawsuit accusing its former director of seeking to profit from a scheme to pass off paintings as Basquiat's. What is that? A pile? What does that look like? Come on now. Just show some real food for once, please. You notice how the fork is turned upside down? That means you don't like it. All right. I'm out. All right. I'll do it in a minute. I don't feel like posting it to YouTube right now. Let's do the Sudoku. What? What is this? This is a... Do I get to do it?